Today I'm going to tell you a bit about my experience as someone living in Korea and working here, and now being back just for travel. And I think almost everyone knows that being a tourist and being someone who actually works and lives in a country are two completely opposite things. And of course, Korea is no exception from that. So here are my top differences and maybe also surprises that I experienced. Number 1. The rose-colored glasses. When you first come, you have probably an idea what it's going to be like, and you might have got your interest from K-dramas or K-pop and other social media content. But as always, social media isn't real life. So one of the biggest differences you get to experience as someone living in Korea is definitely seeing beyond the filtered lens of a tourist and actually experiencing Korea a lot more realistic. The first months when I was here, I used to live in Daegu, and I definitely had totally different expectations. Like, I took Korean classes, went to pretty cafes, and that was pretty much it for the first month. So really, influencer vibes. But obviously, if you live in a country, you're not always spending every afternoon in a pretty cafe drinking matcha latte. So when I started working and slowly adapted to a normal life, this spark and feeling that every day is going to be something special and new and fun definitely went away a bit. And then when I was moving to Seoul, I think it was the second time it hit me. Because again, I had so much fantasies and ideas of what it's going to be like to live in such a major city, especially as someone coming from a smaller town. And it felt like a movie for a while. But then people started to get busy and I needed to get used to doing things on my own, and boredom slowly came back into my life. And this is the second part, being on your own. As a tourist, you might travel solo or with someone else. But even as a solo traveler, you will probably be busy because you only have a short amount of time and you'll want to make every day worth it. But as someone living here, you will have a lot of days where people are just busy with their own life. And you need to motivate yourself to go out and do things, even though if you could just stay home. Because if you're living here, you don't feel the pressure to experience everything you can at the time you're here, because the time doesn't feel limited. And it's not just that people might be busy, you might also have a hard time finding people or making friends. So being alone is a realistic and big part of living abroad. Number 3. Friends and relationships. This point is something that a lot of people probably forget, but if you move to a country, it doesn't necessarily mean that you immediately will make friends. I mean, as a tourist, you probably don't even have the expectations, but when you move to a country, you want to make connections, and you want to meet new people, and you want to build a friend group. But this might be a lot more challenging than you expect. Even though people in Korea are really kind, I don't think it's really common to just meet people without any connections before. And even if you're here as a student, if you're not long-term here, and maybe just for a year or something, you need to consider that the people you're studying with also probably all have their different groups from college or high school. If you'd ask me for tips to make friends, I would probably recommend events or activities that are actually made for this purpose. So for example, an after-school club or a language exchange, which can come really in handy if you want to improve your Korean as well. Number 4. Language barrier. Language plays a big part in your experiences, because navigating in a new country is already difficult as it is, but with language barrier, even simple everyday tasks can become challenging, and also connections are just a lot more harder if there are language barriers. Setting up a bank account can suddenly be a 3-day mission, and you might need a lot of confidence to get out of your comfort zone and practice speaking. I definitely wouldn't rely on only English, even though you can survive in Seoul, but if you go outside, it's a lot more challenging, and even in Seoul, I don't think it's really convenient if you don't know any Korean. You might also have a hard time finding job opportunities. Number 5. Work and part-time jobs. And obviously, this is a really important point, because if you're planning to work here or even just work part-time as a student, there are a lot of things to consider and you might not even end up getting a job. So speaking the language opens a lot of doors for you and gives you way more opportunities. But also, even if you only work part-time, you will experience work culture, and this sometimes might be shocking for you or unfamiliar. The people I got to work with were all really kind, but sometimes communication was quite difficult, and I had a situation where even though I was really sick, I needed to do a lot of explaining to my company why I was calling in sick. So work culture will probably be something that you're not used to, and you will have a lot of challenges at first. Number 6. Social pressure. It might be normal for you to call in when you're sick, at least that's for me. But in Korea, if you're not really seriously sick or cannot properly prove it, you might run into trouble. And even if it gets resolved in the end, I think there's a lot of social pressure for Korean people when it comes to this. It's the same thing for academics. I feel like the social pressure on students is really high, and everybody wants just to be outperforming everyone else and try to keep up with everyone. So I definitely think it's important that you try to keep a bit of a distance from the pressure, because even though if it's normalized, I don't think it makes people actually perform better or makes them happy. Number 7. Food. Food is a big thing for a lot of people. In some countries, it's a representation for connection and care, and then in others, it might be a symbol of respect. But I think for everyone, it plays some amount of importance. And what I came to realize is that even though I was glad I got to experience so many flavors and textures and a lot of delicious food living in Korea, you at some point might get sick of it and just want your home food. You might also have some side effects when you first move here, because your body might not be used to the taste or the flavors of the food, so you might have an upset stomach from time to time or a food aversion. But usually people get better after some time because you get used to it. Also, as a vegan, you can definitely live in Seoul and also try some delicious food, but compared to European countries, it's a lot more difficult. And if you move outside of Seoul, it might be even more challenging. But that doesn't mean that it's impossible. It just means you need some good planning ahead and need to be aware of typical mistakes you might make. Number 8. Korean drinking culture. Drinking is a big part of Korean social life. It doesn't matter if it's friends on the weekend or a company dinner. Koreans love to drink, and they also love to play drinking games. If you want me to make a separate video on my favorite drinking games and everything that I learned about Korean drinking culture, write that down in the comments. I hope my insights can help you prepare yourself for your next trip or Korea stay. By the way, if you're wondering where I am in this video, this is the Seoul Forest. It's a really lovely place that is near Seongsu. Thank you for watching and see you soon.